Picture this. You're standing in the bathroom mirror, decent lighting, and you've just applied a foundation you've been using for a while now. Maybe you've had it for a year. Maybe you bought it because someone's mother raved about it online. It looked fine when you put it on. But by midday, or even by the time you've had your morning tea, it has found every single line around your mouth, every crease near your eyes, every texture variation across your cheeks. And it's sitting in them, not on you. Your face looks 10 years more tired than it did without any makeup on at all. This might be happening to you. And the reason might not be your skin. It might be the product. I want to talk about something today that doesn't get nearly enough honest discussion. Foundation. Specifically, drugstore foundation, and specifically what happens to it on skin that has changed, as all of ours does, over time. Because after 40, the skin behaves differently in ways that are completely predictable from a formulation standpoint. Sebum production typically decreases. The skin barrier becomes less efficient at holding moisture. The texture of the surface itself changes. And yet most foundations at the drugstore are not designed with any of that in mind. The packaging doesn't say that. The marketing certainly doesn't say that. What the marketing says is natural radiant finish and lasts all day. And those phrases mean almost nothing without knowing what's actually in the bottle. In Korea, the philosophy around makeup and skincare is less about drawing a bright line between the two and more about understanding that what you put on your skin should at minimum not fight against it. The cushion foundation format, which Korean companies largely developed and popularized, reflects that you're meant to pat, not drag, and the formula is built to interact with a moisturized surface rather than grip dry skin. That sensibility is genuinely useful. But I'll also tell you, Korean brands are not magically above the same corporate consolidation and marketing sleight of hand that happens everywhere else. I've spent decades in this industry. I've worked with formulations from Seoul and Paris and New York. The same dynamics exist across all of it. What protects you is knowing what to actually look for. So today, we're going through 12 products, 8 that genuinely deserve your attention and your money, and 4 that are, at best, a disappointment for our skin type, and at worst, are being sold to us under labels that don't match what's inside. Let's go from least to most essential, the 4 to leave on the shelf. Number 12, Revlon Color Stay Foundation, Normal Dry. Revlon, now owned by a group of its former lenders after emerging from Chapter 11 bankruptcy in April 2023. Revlon filed for bankruptcy in June 2022. Not exactly the kind of brand news that shows up on the bottle. The company emerged carrying roughly $1.5 billion in debt and is now privately owned by a consortium of creditors, including Glendon Capital Management and King Street Capital. I'm not saying that makes the formula bad, but when a company is operating in that kind of financial pressure, reformulation budgets shrink, and long-time users of ColorStay have noticed. Look at the reviews over the past 2 to 3 years. The word formula change comes up constantly. Users who'd worn it for decades describe it as runnier than it used to be, less consistent in color, and more likely to separate during application. Here's the actual formulation issue for us, though. ColorStay's lasting power comes from a fairly high level of film-forming polymers on skin that has even slightly uneven texture, which is most of us after 40. Those polymers lock everything in place exactly as they find it, including whatever dryness or texture is on the surface when you apply. The result, for many women, is coverage that emphasizes rather than blurs. The foundation itself remains available, and for some skin types, it still performs. But if you're finding it sits heavily on you, you're not imagining it, and the brand's current state doesn't suggest rapid improvement. What to try instead? L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation with SPF 50. Same drugstore price point, genuinely different formulation approach. More on that shortly. Number 11. Maybelline Fit Me. Matte Plus Poreless Maybelline is owned by L'Oreal, which acquired it in 1996. I need to be clear here. This entry is only about the matte plus poreless version. The dewy plus smooth is a different product that we'll talk about on the recommendation side of this list. The matte plus poreless, despite its popularity, is a genuinely problematic choice for skin over 40. Look at the ingredient list. The first silicone-based ingredient after water is cyclohexasiloxane. Then you have isododecaine, then alcohol denat. That alcohol is functionally denatured ethanol. It's high up in the formula, which means it's present in meaningful amounts, and it evaporates on contact, contributing to a matte, tight finish. Excellent for someone with oily skin in their 20s. For skin that is already showing signs of reduced moisture retention, you are actively working against the skin. Multiple beauty editors and testers who have reached midlife specifically note. This version settles into fine lines and exaggerates dry patches throughout the day. What to try instead? The Dewy Plus Smooth version of the same product, which has an entirely different formula. No alcohol denat, high in the list. We'll discuss it properly in the recommendations. Number 10. CoverGirl True Blend Foundation. CoverGirl is owned by Coty Inc., which acquired it from Procter & Gamble in 2016 as part of a $12.5 billion deal. Let me be precise here, because this is a story with several layers. In December 2021, a non-profit called Toxin Free USA filed a lawsuit against CoverGirl and Coty, alleging that the True Blend pressed powder, the powder companion to the foundation, contained indicators of PFAS at levels their testing found to be 6,242 parts per million of organic fluorine. Courts subsequently dismissed several related PFAS suits against CoverGirl, including a mascara case dismissed in March 2024, citing insufficient evidence from the type of fluorine testing used. No adverse judgment against CoverGirl has been reported as of the research for this video. What that means accurately: the lawsuits were filed, courts found them insufficiently proven, and the science on what exactly total organic fluorine measurements indicate about actual PFAS presence is still being debated. Not proven in court and confirmed safe are not the same statement. I'm not telling you to panic. I'm telling you to know the difference between those two things. The separate performance issue, the True Blend formula, particularly the liquid, has received mixed feedback specifically from mature skin users around finish and longevity. For the price, there are more reliable choices. What to try instead? CoverGirl's own Simply Ageless 3-in-1 liquid foundation, which is a genuinely different product formulated specifically with niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and vitamin C. We'll get to it. It's the same brand, but not the same formula, not the same intent. Number 9. NYX. Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Full Coverage Foundation. NYX Professional Makeup has been owned by L'Oreal since 2014. Yes, L'Oreal owns NYX. L'Oreal, to be transparent, also owns Maybelline, Garnier, and the luxury arm includes Lancôme, Armani Beauty, and others. So when you're shopping across different brands at the drugstore, you're often shopping within the same parent company's portfolio. That's not automatically a bad thing. It can mean shared research, but it's worth knowing. The Can't Stop, Won't Stop is an excellent foundation for someone in their 20s with oily skin. It is a true full coverage, matte, long-wear formula, and it delivers exactly on that promise. The problem is exactly what it promises. On skin over 40, full coverage matte formulas tend to sit on the surface of the skin rather than integrating with it, because they're not designed for a skin surface that has changing texture and reduced natural oils. Testers consistently report it looks flat, can emphasize texture under the eyes, and despite the won't stop claim, does fade and crease in areas where mature skin naturally moves. It's doing the job it was designed to do. It's just not the job we need. What to try instead? NYX's Born to Glow Naturally Radiant Foundation. Same brand, completely different philosophy. Light to medium buildable coverage, a subtle luminous finish, available in 45 shades, and much more forgiving on texture. We'll revisit this below. The 8 to know. Number 8, Physicians Formula Butter Glow Serum Foundation. Physicians Formula Inc. is independently owned, not part of L'Oreal, Coty, or Estée Lauder. This is a smaller brand, genuinely independent at the corporate level, which is rarer than you might think in the drugstore aisle. The Butter Glow Serum Foundation leans into buttery emollients, muru butter and vitamin E among them, and the result is a medium coverage foundation with a soft, non-flat, luminous finish. It doesn't have SPF, which is a meaningful limitation. It also has a relatively limited shade range compared to the big players. But the formula itself is genuinely hydrating, blends easily with a damp sponge, and the feedback from women over 40 consistently notes that it doesn't grab at texture. It's not the flashiest recommendation on this list, but it earns its spot by being honest about what it is and largely delivering on it. Number 7. Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Tint. Neutrogena is owned by Johnson & Johnson, which acquired the brand in 1994. Johnson & Johnson owning Neutrogena is not a secret, but it matters context. When you see Neutrogena positioned as a skin health brand, know that it's a very large corporation's positioning decision, not an independent promise. That said, the Hydro Boost tint is a product that legitimately performs for our purposes. The formula is built around the same hyaluronic acid base as the Hydro Boost moisturizing line. It's technically a tinted moisturizer rather than a foundation. The coverage is sheer to light, and if you need more than that, this isn't your primary product. But as a daily option for even, hydrated skin tone on days when you want to look polished without full coverage, it works. It doesn't settle into lines because it doesn't have enough pigment concentration to pull anywhere. The finish is dewy but not wet, and the SPF 25 formulation is a genuine bonus. Limitation. For deep and rich skin tones, the shade range is restricted. This is a real issue and worth checking before purchasing. Number 6. Maybelline Fit Me Dewy plus Smooth. Foundation Maybelline is owned by L'Oreal. I mentioned earlier that this is a completely different product from its matte sibling, and I mean that at the formulation level. Look at the ingredient list. No alcohol, denat anywhere in meaningful position. The base relies on cyclopentasiloxane and dimethicone, which create a smooth surface effect without stripping moisture. Glycerin is present as a humectant. The SPF is 18, modest but present. The result is a light to medium coverage foundation that hydrates rough patches, leaves a naturally luminous finish, and consistently earns praise from women with dry and maturing skin for not settling into fine lines. The application needs attention. The bottle has no pump, which means you can overpour, and that's a genuine annoyance but a separate pump attachment costs less than $2 online and solves it. This is probably the most widely available, reliably restocked drugstore foundation that delivers on what it promises for our skin. It's not exotic, but consistent and correct is worth more than exciting and wrong. Number 5. e.l.f. Halo Glow Skin Tint SPF 50 e.l.f. Beauty is publicly traded NYSE e.l.f. and independently operated. e.l.f. is not owned by one of the beauty conglomerates, which at this price point is genuinely unusual. This product, the skin tint specifically, not the older Halo Glow liquid filter, launched with SPF 50 via zinc oxide, which is a mineral sunscreen. That matters because it means the SPF doesn't rely solely on chemical filters. The formula contains niacinamide and bisabolol, both of which have established supportive roles for skin barrier function. The coverage is sheer to light. This is a skin tint, not a foundation. So if you need meaningful coverage, it won't provide that on its own. It does leave a slightly tacky feel without setting powder, which is worth knowing before you decide. Available in 18 shades across undertones at mass retail including CVS, Target and Walgreens. For the price, the SPF 50 alone is significant. Finding a mineral SPF 50 tint at the drugstore is not common. That earns it this spot. Number 4. CoverGirl Simply Ageless 3-in-1 Liquid Foundation CoverGirl is owned by Coty Inc. Yes, we critiqued True Blend. This is a different product with a different intent and a different formula, and it deserves to be evaluated separately. The Simply Ageless 3-in-1 was developed in collaboration with Olay, and the formula reflects that. It contains niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and vitamin C. Ingredients with legitimate supportive function for skin that is showing signs of aging. The finish is not matte, it's satin to luminous, which suits dry and combination dry skin much better than anything that will flatten. Coverage is medium and buildable. Independent testers generally note it performs well throughout the day without creasing on normal to dry skin, though on skin that still produces oil, which some women experience perimenopausal fluctuation with, it can break down faster. The shade range is a limitation. CoverGirl offers roughly 12 shades in this line, which is inadequate for the full range of skin tones. If you're in a shade that's well represented, this is a genuinely good choice. If you're not, that's a real problem the brand hasn't solved. Number 3. NYX Born to Glow Naturally Radiant Foundation. NYX Professional Makeup is owned by L'Oreal. Again, L'Oreal owns this. That's just the landscape of the drugstore. What matters is whether the formula works, and the Born to Glow does something that matters enormously for skin over 40. It gives a radiant finish without being wet, heavy, or opaque. The coverage is medium and buildable. The formula has a slight luminosity that reads as healthy skin rather than highlighted skin. Women over 50 specifically mention it doesn't settle into deep lines around the mouth. This comes up enough across reviews to be meaningful, not anecdotal. The shade range goes to 45 shades across undertones. The application with a damp sponge is better than fingers for mature skin. No pump. The squeeze tube, however, means you control the amount you dispense. The known limitation. It's not primarily stocked in physical stores in many markets. You may need to order it online. Worth knowing before you go looking. Number 2. L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation with SPF 50 litres L'Oreal Paris. Part of L'Oreal Group, the world's largest beauty company. L'Oreal is L'Oreal. They are not a small brand. They own dozens of companies across price points, and the True Match line and the Age Perfect line both live under the same corporate parent. What they have done here in this specific product is formulate explicitly for mature skin in a way the drugstore category rarely bothers to do. The formula contains niacinamide, vitamin B3, which has strong evidence behind it for evening skin tone and supporting the skin barrier, along with glycerin as a humectant and aloe. The SPF 50 uses both chemical filters and titanium dioxide, giving broad spectrum coverage. It comes in 30 shades. The finish is described accurately as radiant, not dewy, not matte, and independent user feedback from women over 50 repeatedly notes that it does not pool in fine lines during the day. My caveat: SPF 50 in a foundation is excellent, but it doesn't replace sunscreen underneath. For full SPF protection from a foundation, you'd need to apply a quantity that most people don't use. Apply your sunscreen first. This foundation's SPF is still meaningful protection over time, but it's not your only layer. Number 1. Missha Perfect Cover BB Cream SPF 42. Missha is a Korean brand under Able 100 and 100, an independent South Korean cosmetics company. This is my Korean recommendation, and I'm putting it here because it is genuinely the best fit for this category, not because it's Korean. If it weren't the best fit, I'd say so and give you something else. Mish-em. Perfect Cover is one of the most copied formulations in the drugstore market. When the Korean cushion foundation trend arrived globally, much of it was reverse engineering what this product had already been doing for years. A formula that blurs and covers with a skin-like finish, that doesn't sit dry on the surface, and that has broad spectrum SPF built in meaningfully. The SPF 42 PA+++ rating covers both UVB and UVA, which is important. The PA rating system used in Korea rates UVA protection specifically, which the standard US SPF number doesn't reflect. The coverage is medium to full. It is not sheer. The finish photographs luminous but wears as natural skin. Women over 40, across skin types, not just dry, consistently report it doesn't crease. The texture is designed to be applied by patting rather than rubbing. In Korean application philosophy, you press the product into the skin rather than drag it across, which makes a real difference on skin that has texture. You're not pulling anything, you're placing it. Missha is available at many Asian beauty retailers online and increasingly in stores like Ulta. It is not a Coty brand. It is not an L'Oréal brand. Able 100 and 100 is a South Korean company. The brand is not immune to the same marketing dynamics as anyone else. They position heavily and have their own competitive pressures. But in this specific product, the formulation has been proven across decades and across markets. Shade range is the limitation here too. The shades are designed primarily for East Asian skin tones and are relatively light to medium. If your skin is deeper, the BB cream may not shade match you, and the L'Oréal Age Perfect at number 2 is a stronger choice. What to actually do? Here is what I want you to walk away with. Prep before application matters more than the foundation formula itself. A hydrating toner or essence patted, not rubbed into the skin before your moisturizer creates a surface that lets foundation sit on the skin rather than sink into crevices. This is not a complicated step. It takes 30 seconds. Pat, don't drag. A damp sponge pressed into the skin places the formula where you want it without moving the texture underneath. A brush dragged across the face can exaggerate any dry patches or lines that are there. If you've been using a dry brush and wondering why your foundation looks uneven, try a damp sponge first. Use less than you think you need. On skin over 40, light layers that you build up perform better than one heavy application. One pump, assess, add a second if needed. The foundation will look more integrated and less like a mask. Don't skip sunscreen underneath. None of these foundations replace it. The SPF in a foundation matters and adds to your protection, but you'd need more product than is comfortable to get full advertised protection from foundation alone. Put sunscreen on first. Let it absorb, then your foundation. You now know the ownership structures of the brands you're buying from. You know which formulas have formulation evidence behind them for mature skin, and which ones are just marketing. You know what to look for on an ingredient list. No alcohol denat up, yes to glycerin and dimethicone. Check the SPF rating system if you're buying Korean. And you know which 4 products to put back. The drugstore is not working against you. It's just not thinking about you very specifically. That's your job now, and you're equipped to do it.